Today, we're going to talk about another way that podcasts make money. Live ticketed streaming events. Are they lucrative? Let's play the old J piano and find out. Welcome to another episode of Catching You Up with
Nadav. It's okay to die.
Now would be a good time to remind you to comment, like, subscribe right now. But before we get too much into it, I'd like to thank the executive producer of this episode, Bring Back the Ring Light, You Jew. Without their big baller support, I'd probably need to tap into my studio art major that I got in college and start replicating fine masterpieces, and then find like a black market art dealer that can start selling these fakes to unsuspecting victims. And then probably somewhere along that line, I'll realize I don't have the skill to paint a version of the Mona Lisa that people wouldn't know isn't that. So I'd probably then find some sort of beach city, go to the pier, and start drawing caricatures of couples that are probably wildly racist and tap into all of their deepest physical flaws. But because of Bring Back the Ring Light, You Jew, I don't have to do that stuff. And if you want to become a big baller supporter of the show, you can go ahead and click the Patreon link in the description below. So in the previous videos in this series, which I'll post the links to in the description, I talked about YouTube ad revenue and sponsored ad reads. And this episode will cover more of the ancillary side of the business where you sell digital products to your audience. So there are different types of live streamed events, and all of those require different types of production costs, which are all variables in defining what your actual profit margin is for each of these types of events. But here's the coolest thing about digital products versus hard products like shirts. You selling one digital ticket to your live show is going to cost you the same as selling 1 million digital tickets to your live stream show. Granted, there's fees for bandwidth and streaming and making sure that, the stream looks good for everyone, and there's like external companies that you get involved into that to make sure that it's a good viewing experience for the people at home. But for the most part, for the people that are making this streamed event, it costs the same. So I'm going to cover 3 different types of live stream comedy events. I'm going to talk about the first YMH Live, I'm going to talk about the 69-minute special that they put out, and I'll talk about the Kill Tony live-streamed arena show that happened at New Year's. So from all of the YMH Lives, the first one had the lowest amount of overhead because we didn't really do sketches at that point. Really, the main premise of that show was just, what can we show that we can't show on YouTube? And we showed them to Tom's parents. There's not really overhead. We already have a production facility. We already have staff. We already have good internet. There's nothing additionally that we need to purchase that adds to the overhead of putting out that show. We hadn't even incepted the heavy segment yet, Like, that's how early this was. So tickets to that live streamed event were sold for $10. You had it for a few weeks and were able to watch it as many times as you wanted during that time period. And I think that was a great deal. $10 is cheaper than any movie ticket that you'd be able to get. It's cheaper than any 6-pack of really good beer that you like. And for those people that are complaining that $10 is too high of a price point for this kind of event, maybe this just ain't for you, Because it's $10 per ticket, but you could have a viewing party, you could have a whole bunch of friends over, a couple people chip in, $1? $3? The J-math checks out on that. Let's take a quick break and talk about the sponsor of this episode, Aura Frames. Mother's Day is coming up, and if you want to give her a gift that she'll never forget, you gotta get her an Aura frame. Aura Frames Wi-Fi connected digital picture frames let you share and display unlimited photos. Share your vacation pics, family photos, and silly childhood memories quickly and easily. You can even personalize the frame with preloaded pictures, so it's ready to go straight out of the box. I'm actually getting my mom an Aura frame for Mother's Day, and I cannot wait to see her face when she sees everything that I've loaded it with. It's easy to add photos with the Aura app, and the best part is the entire family can download it and add their own photos to the frame. Make sure you don't give that link to Weird Uncle Frank. Frank, there's children in the house. Whether you're showing off pics of your new car or sending your youngest kid off to preschool, it'll be like mom was right there. Right now, Aura has a great deal for Mother's Day. Listeners can save on the perfect gift by going to auraframes.com/Nadav and use code Nadav to get $30 off, plus free shipping on their best-selling frame. That's AURA frames.com/Nadav. Nadav, and use code Nadav at checkout to save. Terms and conditions apply. And we'd like to thank Aura Frames for sponsoring this show. Now, let's get back to the episode. So it's $10 for a ticket, and during the event, I remember we were trending on Twitter, which I think took something like, 4,000 or 5,000 tweets with the hashtag in order for that to be trending, which honestly is pretty wild to me. But let's do some hasty generalizations and do some very basic math to try and calculate how much an event like this can bring in. So let's make an assumption and say that only the people that tweeted bought tickets to the show. And if there were 5,000 tweets that each paid $10 to see the show, that's $50,000. However, it would be a little naive to think that every person that watched the show, A, had a Twitter account, and B, tweeted about the show. So let's build our way up from saying that those tweets represented half of the people that bought tickets to they represented a tenth of the people that bought tickets. So if there's 5,000 tweets, let's imagine 10,000 people bought tickets, that's 100K. If the amount of tweets represented only a quarter of the people that bought tickets, that now takes us up to 200K for the event. And let's say that the amount of tweets only represented a tenth of the amount of people that actually watched the show. This event's now bringing in $1 million. Now, these are all hypothetical numbers, and I'm not trying to imply how many tickets were actually sold to these events, but what I am trying to demonstrate is that there is no ceiling to how much money an event like that can bring in, because there's no limited inventory with digital products. Now let's compare that first YMH Live to their most latest rendition or evolution of their live streamed events, which was 69 minutes. And the concept of 69 minutes was YMH's version of a TV show that's satirical news, almost like The Daily Show meets YMH. That's what 69 minutes was. That show was primarily a whole bunch of sketches that was loosely tied together through segues of monologues and stuff like that. And the thing about sketches is that they absolutely cost money. And they obviously fluctuate in costs because, a sketch of Tom interviewing Rory Scovel in a sit-down interview is clearly going to cost less than taking a 2012 Honda Civic and turning it into the pride and joy of a little country known as Israel. But the thing about the sit-down interviews is that if you're trying to do them very well, like better than how most podcasts are shot, like the way television is shot, that's going to take quite a bit of time and money and people. Because yes, there's a built-in staff at YMH Studios, but they're already working on putting out pretty much a podcast episode every day of the week. And that doesn't take no time. There are people that are working full-time on just putting those shows out. Now, creating 5 to 10 sketches, it takes so much more effort than you realize. You need camera and lighting crews. You need an audio crew. You need full-time editors working on it. You need producers that are working with the editors on it. There's crafty. There's travel expenses that you need to fly people out, put them up in hotels if they're not already in town. And not only that, but on top of that, you got to pay the talent. And you have all these people because you don't want it to look like a podcast. You want it to look like an episode of television. So with 69 minutes, which I have no inner knowledge of because I resigned before they even started working on it, it was all just back-to-back sketches. And each of those sketches had something in it that was expensive. For example, the sketch with Stavros reading Christmas stories to little children. If Stavros isn't in town, you got to fly him out. You got to put him up in a hotel. And on top of that, he's not doing this shit for free because this thing that he's recording with you is putting money directly into your pocket because he's doing that. So you got to pay him something for that too. Then you got to pay all those fucking kids and their parents and fucking handlers. Honestly, working with kids is so goddamn expensive. But what I'm trying to say is that even the simplest sketch that you see still requires a whole ton of planning, a whole ton of producing, a whole ton of writing, a whole ton of editing, a whole ton of everything. So I could be way off, but let's just assume that each of these sketches costs somewhere around $10,000. And look, some of these concepts can definitely fall way under that, but some concepts can fall way over that. Like an interview between Tom Segura and Brian Simpson at YMH Studios is not going to cost that much for them to film. But if it's a sketch where Tom is in a helicopter with a green screen behind him and they're mowing down people on the staff, that requires so much money to make. So let's just say that you've spent somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 on sketches for this live streamed event. And the reason that you're doing that is because you know that you'll at least be making that amount back in digital ticket sales But the reason you do that is because you hope to increase the production value, and that is something that will bring more eyeballs and allow you to not only do this event again, but to do it even bigger than the first time you did. Now, let's take a look at Kill Tony's live event that happened during New Year's. It happened at the HEB Center. I think I heard them say something like there were 10,000 people in attendance, but I Googled that the HEB Center max capacity is 8,000. So let's just stick to that. And they did it 2 nights. Both nights sold out. So they sold every physical tickets to the event. But there's a whole bunch of things you need to think about when it comes to an arena show like that. You're essentially just getting an empty warehouse. You have to rent the space. You have to bring your own stage. You have to bring your own lights. You have to bring your own crews. You have to literally pay for everything about that night and hope that you sell enough tickets to cover your expenses and hopefully on top of that, make a profit. And let me tell you, that's a gigantic financial risk. That shit costs a lot of money up front. Now we're making gross assumptions here because I don't think this is correct math, but let's just have the lowest, dumbest version of this math and say that they sold out the HEB Center 2 nights. Let's say that the first night that they sold out covered all production costs. And I don't remember the hard price for the actual ticket to the HEB Center was, but I do remember them streaming the show for like $40 or something. And I know that the real tickets were probably more than $40, but let's just say that a ticket to the arena show was $40 for you to actually go to the physical event. So if they got $40 a ticket and they sold out an 8,000 person arena, that's $320,000. They did that 2 nights in a row. So $640,000 they made just on physical tickets, super low estimate. Since they streamed this event, I'd like to think that at least they sold as many digital tickets as they sold actual tickets. So for digital tickets, let's just double that. And they have now made $1.28 million for those 2 nights. And if we assume that just selling out that arena for 1 night covers the costs of it, which would be $320,000. So by my J calculations with production costs being subtracted from the grand total, on the low end of my calculations, that 2-night New Year's Kill Tony event profited at least somewhere north of $1 million, which is fucking great. I love to hear that. Business is good, and it should be good. And they're doing it again in May at the Kia Forum, and then again at Madison Square Garden in August. Now look, I'm aware that some of you get mad when you realize how much money some of these people are making, which is, for some reason, always super funny to me. How much money can they possibly need? Don't you have enough watches? And let me ask those people, why would you want to put a ceiling on someone else's success? Would you like a ceiling put on your success? Would you like a ceiling like that for your children? Would you like a ceiling like that for your grandchildren? Can my voice get even higher than that? Look, man, either buy the ticket or don't buy the ticket. Supply and demand dictates all these decisions, and if it wasn't worth it, they wouldn't do it. But I totally understand how fun complaining is. I am Jewish. So Jewish that I'm complaining about people complaining. Look at me. What a pro. But at the end of the day, these are businesses. Yes, these shows are entertaining, and they seem like they're low effort, but I promise you, they are not. A lot of people that you see on camera and off camera put so much blood, sweat, and tears to make these events happen. And you can either be into it or not be into it. But it's wild to me that people get mad about it. These are big productions. This is a big industry. And you could be doing really good business if you're positioned well. It's a fun business. It's a demanding business. And tides can shift just like that. And now that I'm off my moral high horse, let me just say, yeah, dog, this shit's fucking lucrative, homie. Like, it's printing dollars, dog. Like, if you have a big enough following to be able to do this, you should be doing this. If you have an opportunity to make money, go make money. And look, I was gonna talk about Patreon and YouTube channel memberships, but I feel like I've been playing this J piano for a little too long for you guys right now. I'll make another video talking just about that because let me tell you, that shit's pretty fucking lucrative too. Now is a good time to remind you to comment, like, and subscribe right now. It helps the algorithm. Please do it. And while you guys are doing that, I would like you to also take a look at the screen. Everyone whose names that you see on there are my producers who support me on Patreon. Without their help, it'd be very difficult to put this show out, as often and as regularly as I do, to do it as well as I do, to be able to just put the effort that I do into this. And I couldn't do it without the people that support me. And if you would like to support me, you can go ahead and click the Patreon link in the description below. So thank you again for another fun week of catching you up with
Nadav, it's COVID.
And I'd like to, of course, remind you
This is a totally unconfirmed news.